Play stupid games, win brutal prizes. That's all your enemies are doing now, collecting the prizes they earned with your pain. My dear chosen ones, let's call this what it is. This isn't bad luck. This isn't life being unfair to the people who hurt you. This is what happens when someone ignores every red flag, every warning sign, every quiet nudge to stop, and still chooses to keep going. They thought karma was just a cute word people throw around online. They forgot the oldest idiom in the book. When you don't read the writing on the wall, you end up smashed against it. That's your enemies right now, face first into the wall they pretended didn't exist. Chosen ones, your enemies ignored the warnings, and now karma has made them sick. Not just tired, not just stressed, sick. You know that saying, "What goes around comes around." They treated it like a joke. They thought they were the exception. They thought they could drag your name, twist your truth, misuse your kindness, and walk away untouched. They thought your silence meant they won. But silence isn't surrender. Silence is the sound of karma loading. Picture this. Someone keeps tossing mud at you, laughing as it sticks to your clothes. They walk away feeling proud, chest out, ego high. What they don't see is that they walked through the same mud and it's dried all over their own shoes. Now they're slipping, tripping, losing their balance in the very dirt they kicked at you. That's why their life feels unstable now. That's why nothing sits right. The ground they built their fake confidence on is finally crumbling. You might be asking yourself right now, did I cause this? Did I somehow curse them? Am I responsible for what they're going through? No, my dear chosen one. You didn't cast a spell, you just stayed real. You didn't wish sickness on them. They swallowed it every time they chose cruelty over decency. You didn't send anything their way. They boomeranged their own energy back to themselves. You were the mirror they didn't want to see, the quiet reminder that there was another way to live, a cleaner way, a kinder way. They laughed at that. Now they're paying for it. They walked around bragging, "Nothing ever happens to me. I do what I want." And for a while, it looked true, right? They seemed fine. They looked happy online. They acted like they were thriving while you were healing in silence. But, chosen one, understand this. Karma doesn't move on your schedule. It moves on accuracy. Slow cooking hits deeper than fast burning. That's how energy works. It simmered in the background, stacking every lie, every betrayal, every time they smirked at your tears. Now the heat is finally on them, and they can't handle the temperature they set. Their bodies feel heavy, their sleep is broken, their mind is foggy. They call it stress, they call it burnout, they call it just a phase. But you and I both know what it really is, the weight of everything they did finally sitting on their chest. Guilt isn't just a feeling, it's a virus that eats from the inside out. Stress isn't just pressure, it's the body screaming, "We can't carry this anymore." Lies don't just disappear, they rot in the basement of the mind until the whole house starts to stink. My dear chosen ones, why does it seem like everything is hitting them at once, you might wonder? Because they ignored everything one by one. Every warning they brushed off now returns as a bill stamped overdue. They were told by life to stop. They were told by their own conscience to stop. They were told by chance after chance after chance to stop. They didn't. So now their little actions have become big consequences. That's not punishment, that's cause and effect finally catching up. And while they're glitching, look at you. You're not perfect, but you're honest with yourself. You own your mistakes. You try to grow. You care. That's what makes you chosen. Your heart is wired differently. You feel things deeply. You learn. You evolve. You may have been the one they mocked, but you're also the one who got out. They're stuck in a maze made of their own behavior. You, my dear chosen one, are outside the maze now, watching the pattern clearly. Here's the part they never saw coming. Your glow is their karma. Your progress is their mirror. Your peace is their discomfort. Every time you level up, it silently exposes everything false about them. They wanted you broken because you made their fake strength look real. But you didn't stay broken, you rebuilt. And now, every step you take forward is a reminder to them of every step they refused to take. Before we go deeper into this, Chosen One, if your chest is nodding before your mind can even find the words, take a second and feed this energy. Hit like, subscribe, and drop 77 in the comments to lock in this alignment. This is more than a video, it's a mirror and a message. And by engaging, you're not just supporting content, you're saying, I choose growth over resentment. I choose elevation over revenge. Chosen One, before we take this deeper, pause for a moment and support the very force that's speaking to you right now. If this message is hitting your spirit, if you feel the truth rising in your chest, show your alignment by liking this video and subscribing to the channel. Your support isn't just a button click. It fuels the energy that allows us to bring you more powerful, inspiring, and life-changing content. Every like, every subscription, every comment helps this message reach more souls who need it. Stand with us, Chosen One. Strength grows louder when we rise together. Let's be very clear. Your enemies didn't just mess with a nice person. They messed with someone wired for transformation. They messed with someone who turns pain into wisdom. They messed with someone whose power doesn't come from control, but from authenticity. That kind of person, you, my dear Chosen One, always triggers one of two things in people: inspiration or exposure. The ones who refuse to grow chose exposure. And exposure always hurts. So yes, they're sick now. But it's not a flu. It's not a random virus. It's the side effect of living out of alignment for too long. They wanted the perks of being heartless without paying the price. Now the price is due. And there are no refunds, no extensions, no shortcuts. You didn't write their story, but you are the plot twist they never prepared for. And this time, the saying is true. They made their bed. Karma simply turned on the lights. Chosen One, before we go any further into why your enemies are crumbling under the weight of the warnings they ignored, take a moment to anchor yourself into this space. Your support is what keeps this message alive. If you feel this truth stirring in your chest, if you recognize the signs unfolding around you, hit the like button, subscribe, and drop 77 in the comments to lock in your alignment. Your engagement helps us continue bringing powerful, energizing, and transformational content straight to those who need it most. And now, let's step into the next layer. Because if you're truly chosen, you'll realize these aren't random events. They're the very symptoms of karma shifting in your favor. Let's continue. Number 1. When the countdown ends and their world finally cracks open, when the clock strikes back and their luck runs dry. Some people don't hear the ticking until the clock lands on their neck. My dear Chosen Ones, let's speak plainly. Your enemies thought time was their ally. They strutted through life like the countdown wasn't meant for them, like consequences were a myth invented for weaker people. They bragged, they mocked, they pushed, they crossed every line with a smile. But time isn't loyal to ego. Time is loyal to truth. And the truth is finally knocking on their door, harder than they ever knocked on your patience. They thought the warnings didn't apply to them. They saw the signs, shifts in energy, tension in their chest, people pulling away, plans glitching, but arrogance makes people blind, and ego makes them deaf. They convinced themselves they were untouchable, chosen ones. They treated life like a rigged game they could cheat forever. But even rigged games break when the table collapses, and their table was cracking long before they noticed. Let me give you a metaphor they can understand now that it's too late. Imagine someone juggling knives in a room full of mirrors. They laugh, they show off, they brag about their skill. But every knife represents a lie, a betrayal, a moment they mistreated you. And eventually their hand slips, not because the knife changed, but because they got cocky. The moment the blade drops, it doesn't hit the floor, it shatters the mirror. Now they're surrounded by reflections of the damage they caused, and every broken shard points back at them. Chosen One, I know what you're thinking. Why did it take so long? Why didn't life check them sooner? Why did they get away with so much? And here's the truth. They didn't get away with anything. They just didn't realize the bill was being prepared. Life doesn't rush consequences. It studies them. It makes sure every return is accurate. Precision takes time. Balance takes time. And karma doesn't knock until the exact moment silence hurts them more than any noise ever could. They thought your silence was weakness. They thought your patience meant fear. They thought your healing journey was you being soft. My dear chosen ones, they misread you completely. Your silence was self-preservation. Your patience was strength. Your healing was transformation. They weren't watching you fall apart. They were watching you power up. They just didn't recognize the process because they've never done the work themselves. Now look at them. Confused, drained, lost. They wake up tired, they go to bed anxious, their mind runs circles around mistakes they pretended didn't matter. And the funniest part, they can't blame anyone but themselves, though they try. Oh, they try. They're scrambling for excuses, pointing fingers, rewriting stories in their head, anything to avoid admitting the truth. Their downfall was self-authored. You, chosen one, might be asking, why all at once? Why does their world look like it's folding in from every direction? Because when someone ignores the same warnings repeatedly, the consequences stack. And when stacked consequences fall, they don't fall politely, they avalanche. That's what you're witnessing. Not punishment, not revenge, just a system correcting itself, just energy returning home. Here's the part that stings them the most. Their collapse is happening at the same time your rise is becoming impossible to ignore. You're glowing, chosen one. You're clearer, calmer, stronger. Your spirit feels lighter because you released what they held onto. Their spirit feels heavier because they held onto what you released. Irony is poetic when it hits the right target. Their confidence is leaking. Their lies are slipping. Their charm is malfunctioning. And chosen one, they feel your energy from a distance. Your progress echoes in their insecurity. Your growth shakes their foundation. Your peace exposes their chaos. They're not just crawling because life is hard. They're crawling because your elevation reminds them of every chance they wasted. They avoided mirrors for years, but now everything around them has turned into one. Every setback reflects a lie. Every loss reflects a betrayal. Every moment of fear reflects a choice they made, thinking the world wouldn't remember. But the world always remembers. Not out of malice, but out of balance. Let this sink in deeply, chosen one. You didn't destroy them. You didn't weaken them. You didn't curse them. They collapsed under the weight of their own behavior. You just stepped out of the way so nothing would fall on you. And that is your power, quiet, steady, undeniable. So yes, time's up. Not because you demanded it, but because they exhausted it. They misused their grace period, ignored every opportunity to change, and now the clock they pretended not to hear is ringing loud enough to shake their entire reality. And here you are, chosen one, standing tall while they crawl through the consequences they built with their own hands. Their downfall is not your burden. It is simply the echo of their choices. If you're ready, let's go even deeper. Number 2, the decay. They ignored is now crawling up their spine. The rot they fed is finally feasting on them. People don't crumble because life hits them. They crumble because their own lies stop holding them upright. My dear chosen ones, let's peel back the curtain on what's really happening to the immature liar who thought they could toy with you and outrun the consequences. Their sickness isn't physical. It's not something a pill, a doctor, or a fake apology can fix. It's the rot they fed themselves finally rising to the surface. They poisoned their own well, and now they're choking on the water. This breakdown didn't start in their body, it started in their intentions. The very moment they decided hurting you was fun, when mocking your kindness felt like a game, when twisting the truth gave them a rush, that was the day the first crack appeared in their foundation. And instead of repairing it, they kept adding more weight, more lies, more manipulation, more fake confidence. Now that foundation is collapsing, chosen one, and they can't blame gravity for what they built. Outwardly, they still pretend to be fine. They slap on a smile, adjust their mask, and laugh too loudly at jokes that aren't funny. But watch closely. When they think no one's looking, their hands tremble, their breath shortens, their eyes dart around like they're running from a ghost, and in a way, they are. The ghost is their own conscience, something they've avoided for years. You might wonder, chosen one, how can someone who looks put together be falling apart this badly on the inside? Because internal collapse doesn't make noise. It spreads silently, like cracks in a mirror. Every lie they told was another fracture. Every secret they buried was another weak spot. Every time they mistreated you and acted like it didn't matter, the mirror cracked again. Now, when they look into their reflection, they can't even recognize who's staring back. Their mind used to be their weapon. They used it to manipulate, twist, and control situations. But now, that same mind has turned against them. Their thoughts race in circles. They forget simple things. They lose track of conversations mid-sentence. They don't know if what they're feeling is intuition or paranoia because they've lived so long in deception they can't tell the difference anymore. And guilt. Guilt is aging them faster than time ever could. Guilt is the kind of weight that bends the spine without anyone noticing. It's the quiet sickness that no doctor can diagnose, the kind of illness that comes from betraying yourself long before you betray someone else. Imagine this, chosen one. They're walking down a hallway with 1,000 doors, desperately looking for an exit, but every door leads them right back into the same room, the room filled with everything they tried to bury, their mistakes, their lies, their betrayal toward you. And the smell of their own conscience is suffocating them. Nighttime, once their escape, has become their punishment. The thoughts they outran during the day tackle them the moment the lights go off. Their mind hits harder at 2 a.m. than karma ever could. The same imagination they used to manipulate others is now crafting scenarios of their downfall. And don't be fooled, their sickness isn't only mental, it's social. People are drifting away from them, not because they know the details, but because they feel the contamination in this liar's energy. Desperation leaks from their voice, their charisma short-circuits, their charm malfunctions. The aura they once used to attract people now repels them. Their reputation is rotting. Their influence has turned to dust. Even the people who once followed them now step back, whispering, "Something's off." That's because something is off. Everything is off. Their entire identity is collapsing from the inside out. Chosen ones often ask, why does their downfall feel so much heavier than the damage they tried to cause? Because the universe doesn't match the size of the action, it matches the intention behind it. They tried to break your peace, so now theirs is shattered. They tried to shake your confidence, so now theirs is leaking. They tried to dim your light, so now they're trapped in their own darkness. And the irony, they crave the very things they mocked you for. They want the peace they ridiculed. They want the stability they said was weakness. They want the emotional clarity they once dismissed. They want the love they were never capable of giving. Life has a funny way of teaching compassion by forcing people to feel the consequences of not having any. Money won't save them. Distractions won't numb them. External comfort can't patch the internal rupture. Their sickness is karmic, psychological, self-inflicted. It's the cost of living out of alignment for too long. They have to sit in that uncomfortable chair with no escape. no shortcuts, no loopholes. And every day they sit there, the chair grows sharper. Their empire of lies is falling the way it was built, slowly at first, then all at once. Connections crumble, opportunities vanish, every advantage turns into dust. They wake up to a reality they can't manipulate and a reflection they can't fix. Chosen one, understand this clearly. They weren't attacked, they were exposed. They built the poison, drank from it, and now live inside it. Meanwhile, you rose above it. When someone harms the right soul, life doesn't rush. It waits for the perfect moment. And now, that moment has arrived. Number 3. The moment silence turned into their unavoidable sentence. When time finally bit back and their escape routes evaporated. There's a bitter truth your enemies are learning the hard way. Chosen one, time is the one thing arrogance consistently miscalculates. Arrogance always mistakes silence for safety, right until the door locks from the outside. That's exactly where they are now. They moved with the swagger of someone who believed consequences expired if ignored long enough. They acted as if life's quiet moments meant immunity, as if the pause before the storm meant the storm had changed its mind. But silence isn't safety. It's setup. And the setup always belongs to the one who stayed true, not the one who played dirty. Your enemies swore they were getting away with everything. They swore the lack of immediate fallout meant they had slipped through every crack, dodged every bullet, avoided every shift in the atmosphere. But what they didn't know was this: the delay was never protection. The delay was the rope life handed them, not to save themselves, but to tie their own knots. Every lie they told, every manipulation they threw at you, every time they smirked while hurting you, they walked one step deeper into a trap built entirely by their own behavior. Time wasn't ignoring them. Time was watching, waiting, calculating. Imagine this. Someone breaks into a house, expecting chaos, alarms blaring, lights flashing, sirens screaming. But nothing happens, no sound, no movement, no response. They think they lucked out. They think they beat the system. They think they're safe. So they relax. They even smile. But what they don't realize is that the alarm did go off, just silently. It sent its signal quietly, behind the scenes. The authorities are already on their way. The countdown already started. The trap already closed. That is your enemies right now. They mistook the quiet for freedom when in reality, the quiet was just the system loading their consequences. My dear chosen ones, you might be wondering, didn't they notice anything? Didn't they feel the shift? Didn't they sense they were running out of time? They did. And that's exactly why their downfall feels so justified. They felt the tension in the air. They felt the uneasiness in their chest, that strange heaviness before they slept, that panic they tried to swallow with distractions. They felt relationships shift. They felt people distancing themselves. They felt the energy around them tighten. But pride, oh, pride is a loud liar. Pride convinced them they had more time. Pride convinced them you would never rise. Pride convinced them karma was optional. Pride convinced them consequences were negotiable. But consequences don't negotiate, and exits only exist for people who want to change. They didn't. So every ignored warning became another brick in the cage they were building. Every disrespect added another lock. Every chance they rejected sealed one more door behind them. They thought they were moving freely, but they were constructing their own prison with every step they took. Some cages don't need bars, chosen one. Some cages are made of truth, and the truth finally cornered them. Then reality snapped. Not slowly, not softly, not politely. The floor underneath them, one they strutted across for years, vanished without warning. 1 minute they were bragging, performing, pretending to be untouchable. The next minute they were choking on the consequences they swore would never reach them. That's the thing about time. It doesn't tap them on the shoulder. It hits like a falling wall. Now there's no wiggle room, no excuses left. no delays to hide behind. Time isn't flexible for people who weaponize it. They use time to manipulate, to stall, to deceive, to pretend. But time is loyal only to truth, and the truth has finally arrived at their doorstep without knocking. They weren't safe. They were blind. And patience was never permission. Life didn't look away. Life didn't forget. Life didn't forgive silently. Patience was simply the countdown to the hit they couldn't dodge, the moment karma decided the show was over. And Chosen One, that moment is now. Number 4. The monster they built is now, dragging them back into the dark. When the beast they built starts feeding on them first. Whoever sharpens a blade for someone else always forgets which way it swings when the handle slips. My dear chosen ones, let's strip away the excuses your enemies hide behind. They aren't falling apart because life is cruel. They aren't losing sleep because the world suddenly turned on them. They aren't drowning in their own chaos because of some unlucky streak. No, what's happening to them now is the direct result of the curse they engineered brick by brick, lie by lie, betrayal by betrayal. They stitched together their own downfall with the same reckless hands they used to try to break you. And now the fabric is tearing from the inside. People don't get destroyed by accidents. They get destroyed by the monsters they train, feed, and protect in the dark corners of their own personality. Your enemies didn't just wake up one day and find themselves spiraling. They created this spiral. Every time they twisted the truth, every time they manipulated someone for gain, every time they mocked your sincerity or turned your kindness into a joke, they planted seeds. And Chosen One, those seeds didn't die. They didn't disappear. They grew roots. They grew vines. They grew teeth. Imagine this. Someone constructing a house out of stolen wood, cracked glass, and rusted nails. Maybe from afar it looks impressive. Big enough to brag about, bright enough to post online, strong enough to fool people who only see the surface. But on the inside, the beams are hollow. The foundation is rotting. Termites are chewing silently through the support pillars. Mold is spreading behind the walls. Every step shakes the floorboard. That house doesn't explode. It decays, slowly, quietly, inevitably. That's your enemy's life right now. Not a dramatic downfall, not a sudden catastrophe, just a steady collapse of everything they built wrong. Chosen One, they will tell themselves it's just stress. They will pretend it's temporary. They will call it bad timing or bad luck or nothing to worry about. But denial doesn't hold up a collapsing structure. You can't tape cracks over and expect the building to stand. And their cracks are everywhere. Relationships falling apart, people pulling away, opportunities slipping, their name losing weight, their fake confidence melting under pressure. They're living inside the consequences they crafted. Now I know you're wondering, why does it seem like everything is hitting them from every direction at once? Because energy doesn't return in small doses. It returns multiplied. They sent out chaos, so chaos returned amplified. They invested in manipulation, so confusion is now their currency. They traded integrity for convenience, so now nothing in their life feels stable. When someone builds their entire identity on shortcuts, their whole structure eventually caves from the center. And the truth, Chosen One, they had chances, countless chances. Life nudged them to change. Whispers of guilt, moments of clarity, opportunities to do better. It was all there, but arrogance is a hypnotist. It convinced them they were untouchable. It made them believe they could get away with everything forever. It told them consequences were just myths told to naive people. Now arrogance is the same force dragging them into their downfall. Their old tricks, useless. Their manipulation exposed, their excuses falling apart mid-sentence. Even the people who once celebrated them are stepping back slowly, sensing the collapse they don't want to be caught under. And Chosen One, notice something important. You didn't have to lift a finger. Their own energy, their own choices, their own actions are stripping them down piece by piece. That's what makes this so powerful. Not revenge, but reflection. Nothing haunts a person harder than the truth they tried to bury. They covered it with lies, but the ground is shaking now. They hid it behind people, but those people are walking away. They buried it deep, but their own mind is digging it up at 3 a.m. The weight on their chest isn't random. It's the gravity of everything they refuse to face. This isn't karma attacking them. This is the consequences they handcrafted coming home hungry. And remember, chosen one, no one else is to blame. Not you, not fate, not circumstances. The curse they engineered is finally collecting, and the first life it devours is always the creator's. They built this beast. Now the beast has their scent. When you understand that, you'll see this for what it truly is. Not punishment, but poetic balance. Number 5. Their victory parade ended before the music even started. They threw a victory party before the score was final. And now, life is laughing louder than they ever did. Nothing ages faster than a smile worn too early, especially when it wasn't theirs to wear. My dear chosen ones, let's talk about one of the most predictable chapters in every liar's downfall: premature celebration. Your enemies made the oldest mistake in the book. They cheered before the final whistle. They laughed at you while you were still climbing. They toasted to your failure while you were quietly rebuilding. They pretended your struggle was entertainment, something to gossip about, something to mock, something that made them feel stronger for a moment. But that kind of celebration is a curse because it blinds people to the twist life has already prepared behind the curtain. Chosen one, your enemies treated your pain like a performance. They stood in the crowd, pointing, whispering, snickering, convinced the show was over. They thought your silence was defeat. They mistook your setbacks for permanent endings. They believed their temporary advantage was a throne, and their short-lived ego boost was a crown. That's how small minds operate. They mistake the prologue for the entire story. They forget that every comeback begins with a quiet chapter. Life heard their laughter. Life saw how they clapped when you stumbled. Life watched them smirk at your heartbreak, like your suffering was a punchline. And life doesn't forget moments like that. Life doesn't clap with people who mock the wounded. Life waits. It lets them enjoy their premature victory lap. It lets them strut. It lets them brag. And then, when the timing is perfect, life turns the entire stage around and makes them realize the microphone they were boasting into was never even turned on. Suddenly, their words fall flat, their charm stops working, their manipulations glitch like an outdated app. The same audiences who once listened now roll their eyes. The fake confidence they wore cracks like cheap paint in the sun. They open their mouth to impress. And nothing comes out but the echo of their own insecurity. Their influence melts the same way a sandcastle melts when the tide decides it's time to rise. And you, chosen one, you can't help but notice the poetry in all of this. Their downfall doesn't feel random. It feels scripted. It feels tailored. It feels like a mirror held up to their behavior. Why? Because they mocked what they didn't understand. They misunderstood isolation as weakness, not preparation. They misunderstood silence as defeat, not strategy. They misunderstood your healing as hiding, not evolving. They laughed at your loneliness. Now they sit in rooms where no one answers their calls. They laughed when you had nothing. Now they watch everything they depended on fall apart. They laughed at your sleepless nights. Now they're wide awake at 3 a.m., replaying every choice that led them to this unraveling. Their aura has become something people avoid. Their energy feels unstable, and humans instinctively move away from instability. Doors that used to open now slam shut before they even reach them. Opportunities flee from them like they're contagious. Misfortune stacks up faster than their excuses can keep up. The spotlight they enjoyed so much has turned around and is now exposing every flaw they tried to hide. And while their world is shrinking, look at you. You survived storms they said would bury you. You healed wounds they mocked. You learned to walk through darkness without letting it stain your spirit. You rebuilt yourself from truths, not lies. You grew in silence while they bragged loudly. That is the difference between you and them. You are structured for endurance. They are structured for show. They wished storms on you, chosen one. They cheered for dark clouds to swallow you. But here's the irony. You weren't made of paper. They were. You walked through the weather and came out stronger. They walked into the weather they cheered for and dissolved in their own chaos. The storm they sent out was never meant for you. It was built from their own intentions, so it returned to its creator. Their undoing is simple. They celebrated too early. And life loves correcting that kind of arrogance. Chosen one, let this fuel you. Let this remind you that your timing is different, your story is different, your strength is different. You don't need to celebrate early. Your real victory is still unfolding, and it will land exactly when it's meant to. Right when your enemies realize the joke was always on them. Number 6. The throne they borrowed. Just evicted them without warning. Their throne was just a prop, and the spotlight finally exposed it. My dear chosen ones, some people don't realize their crown is plastic until the heat of truth melts it. Your enemies strutted around like royalty, convinced their position was permanent, their influence unshakable, their status carved into stone. But there's a difference between earning a throne and renting one, and everything they had, every inch of authority, every ounce of attention, every bit of influence was rented, temporary, conditional, revocable. Now the landlord of reality has knocked, and the bill is steep. They carried their borrowed power like it was destiny, confusing access for ability and applause for respect. They believed people listened because they were special, chosen, superior. But influence built on fear, manipulation, and loud theatrics is nothing but scaffolding around an empty stage. It looks impressive until someone removes one pole, and suddenly the entire structure collapses. And chosen one, right now, their scaffolding is falling piece by piece. Here's the truth they never wanted to face. What they called power was never theirs. It was a loan from circumstances, from naive supporters, from convenient timing, from people who hadn't yet seen their real face. And borrowed power always demands repayment. The moment they used their position to mock, belittle, manipulate, or harm, they signed the expiration date on their own throne. You might be wondering, my dear chosen ones, why is everything they touch falling apart now? Because borrowed power only functions when handled with integrity. The second they misused it, weaponized it, flaunted it, abused it, the universe stamped "return to sender" on every privilege they had. They thought they were turning everything into gold, but it was nothing but glitter, and glitter never survives a storm. The truth blows through their life like wind through an old attic, and whatever isn't real gets swept away. Imagine someone finding a VIP pass on the ground and using it like it belongs to them. They walk past the line, chin high, acting like they own the building. But then security scans the barcode, and the smile drops. That's your enemies, enjoying privileges they didn't earn, sitting in seats that weren't meant for them, walking halls where they didn't belong. And accountability, oh, accountability, finally checked the barcode. Now the calls they once received instantly are ignored. The people who once hyped them up suddenly fall silent. Their opportunities dry up like a puddle in the sun. Doors that once opened easily now feel welded shut. They keep telling themselves it's temporary, but even they can feel the shift. The cold air of truth is creeping in. Their support beams are collapsing under the weight of their inflated ego. Borrowed power is fragile. Misuse it, and it disappears. Misquote it, and it exposes you. Mistreat others with it, and it turns against you like a boomerang made of iron. Now their wealth slips away like loose change, their status shrivels, their connections shriek quietly into the shadows. Every shortcut they once celebrated becomes a dead end. Every favor they collected turns to dust in their hands. Chosen one, the reason they acted so bold, so loud, so arrogant is because deep down they knew the truth. They were on borrowed time. They could feel the countdown even while pretending not to. That's why they tried so hard to make you feel small. They needed to distract from how temporary their kingdom really was. The clock just struck 0. Their throne repossessed. Their crown cracked. Their influence evaporated. Their power never real to begin with. And now they're left facing a truth they spent years avoiding. You can't rule a kingdom built from lies, and you can't keep a throne you never earned. Their downfall isn't an accident, it's the return policy. They were never kings or queens, they were tenants, and the lease is up. Number 7. Their fake circle melted the second the heat turned real. Their circle was plastic, now it's melting around them. People who collect followers instead of friends always forget one thing. Plastic melts under real heat. My dear chosen ones, this part of their downfall is the one they never imagined would hit them so brutally. They walked around with their chest puffed out, bragging about their circle, bragging about who supported them, bragging about who followed them, bragging about who was on their team. What they didn't realize is that the only reason their circle looked full was because they kept it inflated with fear, manipulation, and fake charm. Nothing real lives in that environment, and nothing fake survives the moment pressure rises. And now, chosen one, the heat has finally turned up. Not on you, but on them. And everything plastic is melting fast. These immature liars built their connections like a cheap house of props, good for show, empty on the inside. They bragged about their alliances, their supporters, their people, but their people were never people. They were shadows, they were placeholders, they were temporary spectators who only clapped as long as the illusion stayed alive. And now that the illusion has shattered, those same spectators are sprinting out of the theater as if the building is on fire, because it is. Their life is burning down under the weight of their own lies, and no one wants to risk getting caught in the flames. Fear attracts followers, chosen one, but fear never builds loyalty, and followers built on fear scatter the moment the wind changes direction. You might be asking yourself, why does betrayal hit them this hard, this fast? Because deep down, chosen one, they always knew their circle wasn't real. They knew those people didn't admire them, they merely tolerated them. And tolerance has an expiration date. They sensed the fakeness long before it cracked. They knew those friendships had no foundation, no respect, no genuine care. They used people, and people used them right back. That's not connection, that's a transaction. And transactions end the second the value disappears. Their power dipped, their lies slipped, and suddenly everyone who once stood around them began backing away slowly, as if they finally smelled the smoke billowing from the collapsing tower this liar built. Imagine this. Someone sitting proudly on a throne made of ice, bragging that it will never melt. Then the sun rises. That's your enemy right now, sitting in cold water, confused, shivering, shocked that the very throne they bragged about is disappearing under them. Their so-called allies didn't stay because of loyalty. They stayed because the throne looked shiny, but the shine is gone, and now all that's left is a puddle, and absolutely no one stands around a puddle clapping. First, the betrayals creep in quietly, a late response, a ghosted call, a sudden shift in tone. People who once hyped them up now turn silent. People who once needed them now avoid them. At first, your enemy tells themselves they're just busy, they'll come back. But we both know they won't, because the ice is melting, the throne is sinking, and the only thing left for their followers to do is save themselves. And then, chosen one, the betrayals get loud. Secrets start leaking. the same secrets they trusted their fake circle with. The same people they confided in now flip sides without hesitation. The ones they believed would defend them suddenly expose them. Their loyal circle transforms into a group of opportunists diving off a collapsing ship. Their allies become critics. Their supporters become witnesses. Their friends become informants. Nobody is loyal to someone whose lies are spreading like cracks through glass. You see, Chosen One, when someone builds a kingdom on fear, manipulation, and ego, the kingdom doesn't collapse, it evaporates. One day there's an empire, and the next day there's dust. And they're left standing alone, stunned, trembling, surrounded by the ruins of a throne that was never real and connections that never cared. And here's the part that hits them harder than any karma ever could. The wolves they once fed, the people they manipulated, used and controlled to feel powerful, are finally hungry. And this time, they aren't hunting for loyalty. They're hunting for truth, for exposure, for distance, for safety. And your enemy, the immature liar who bragged so loudly, has become the meal. Their downfall is not poetic justice, it's predictable physics. Plastic melts, ice thrones melt, fake circles melt, and now everything around them is melting at once. Meanwhile, Chosen One, look at you. You don't need a circle built on fear. You attract genuine loyalty because your energy is real. You don't need followers. You inspire support because your spirit holds weight. You don't need manipulation. Your authenticity speaks louder than their entire script. This is why you rise while they melt. This is why you grow while they shrink. This is why their kingdom collapses while your path expands. And this is why their fake circle evaporated the moment their lies were no longer entertaining. Their downfall is simply the truth catching up, Chosen One. And the truth always arrives right on time. Number 8. Their echoes vanish because the world learned to stop listening. Their circle was plastic, and now it's melting into a mess they can't escape. My dear Chosen Ones, here's a truth that your enemies never wanted to face. People who build their circle out of fear instead of respect always end up surrounded by ghosts. They spent years inflating their image, acting important, bragging about their team, pretending they had an army behind them. They strutted around believing their influence was real, believing their connections were solid, believing their presence held weight. But influence built on manipulation is nothing but a balloon. Looks big from a distance, pops the moment anything sharp touches it. And karma, Chosen Ones, has a way of dropping needles at the perfect time. The people they called friends were never friends. They were placeholders, background characters, nervous spectators who stuck around because your enemy barked loud enough to keep them in line. Fear can keep people close, but it can never keep them loyal. And now that your enemy's downfall has begun, those same people are peeling off and disappearing like cheap plastic melting under a heat lamp. The moment your enemy's power dipped even slightly, everyone around them felt the shift in the air. It smelled like smoke. It smelled like collapse. And nobody, Chosen One, nobody wants to be seen standing next to a burning building. You might be wondering, why does betrayal hit them so hard and so fast? Why does everyone suddenly turn their back on them? Because somewhere deep in their conscience, even they knew their circle was hollow. They knew those people weren't with them, they were around them. There's a difference. People around you stay as long as the spotlight is on. People with you stay even when the world goes dark. Your enemies never had that second kind. They recruited followers, not partners. They demanded obedience, not respect. And followers run the second the wind changes direction. Imagine this, Chosen One. Your enemy sitting high on a throne made of ice, bragging that it will never melt, laughing at the thought of losing anything. But then the sun rises, not loudly, not violently, just naturally, and suddenly the cracks begin. Slowly at first, a drip here, a crack there, a shift they ignore, but eventually the entire throne collapses under its own fragility. And when it does, the people who once cheered for them run so fast, the dust behind them looks like smoke trails. That's exactly what's happening now. It always starts subtle. A friend who once replied instantly now forgets. Another who used to gossip with them suddenly goes quiet. Someone who depended on them before now offers excuses not to hang out. At first, your enemy tells themselves they're just busy, they'll be back. But they won't, because everyone around them can feel the ice melting, and nobody wants to sink with them. And then, chosen one, betrayal stops being silent. It gets noisy. Secrets they shared in confidence suddenly leak. People they thought were allies start exposing their lies, their behavior, their patterns. The ones they trusted with their schemes now use those very schemes as ammunition. Their loyal followers flip sides so quickly it leaves your enemy dizzy. Everyone who once hyped them up now steps back, hands raised, saying, "I never really knew them." And the most poetic part? Your enemy taught them this behavior. They taught them to survive by stepping on others. They taught them that loyalty wasn't required. They taught them that betrayal was an option. Now they're getting a taste of their own curriculum. Chosen one, understand this. When someone's power dies, the masks around them fall too. And your enemy is now staring into the bare faces of people who never liked them, never respected them, never believed in them. These were wolves pretending to be allies, and your enemy kept feeding them, mistaking hunger for loyalty. But wolves don't stay loyal to weakness, they consume it. Now look at them, isolated, exposed, surrounded not by supporters, but by the ruins of a kingdom held together only by fear. Their group chat is silent, their phone barely rings, their name stops opening doors. The attention they used to brag about dissolves like plastic left under the sun. And the circle they swore was solid. Turns out it wasn't a circle at all. It was a trap made of their own ego. Here's the punchline. The wolves they fed are finally hungry. And this time, chosen one, your enemy is the meal. Their downfall didn't begin when people abandoned them. It began the moment they built a circle out of fear instead of respect. Now their plastic connections are melting, their fake friendships are evaporating, and the truth is standing right in front of them. They were never the powerful one. They were just the loudest one, and once the volume dropped, everyone walked away. Number 9, there's no cure for a collapse born from their own hands. The collapse they created has no antidote. My dear chosen ones, here is the brutal truth your enemies never planned to face. There is no antidote for a collapse you created with your own hands. You can't medicate a broken character, you can't bandage a rotting intention, and you cannot escape a downfall born from your own decisions. Some pain isn't an illness. It's the invoice life sends when the lies you lived finally run out of room to hide. For years, these immature liars believed they could outrun every consequence. They acted like life was a maze full of shortcuts created just for them. Every rule had a loophole. Every betrayal had a cover story. Every wrongdoing had someone else to blame. They moved like the world owed them immunity, as if accountability was optional and consequences were negotiable. They lived their entire life assuming there would always be a back door waiting for them. Money was their eraser. Influence was their shield. Fake apologies were their reset button. They treated people like temporary stepping stones and treated themselves like the center of a universe they never took responsibility for. But chosen one, even the most skilled pretender, eventually hits the one wall. No privilege, no charm, no manipulation can break through. The wall called inevitable consequences. And now that they've slammed into it, everything they once used to escape the truth has stopped working at the same time. Their body glitches, not because of illness, but because stress finally cracked the armor they pretended to have. Their mind spirals, not because of chaos, but because the lies they lived have turned on them like an infection. Their peace evaporates because peace cannot survive in a heart that was never honest. and now they sit across from professionals, doctors, therapists, specialists, hoping for an explanation, praying for a diagnosis that will make everything make sense. But the tests come back normal. The charts show nothing. The scans reveal emptiness. Why? Because nothing is wrong with them medically. Everything is wrong with them morally. This is not sickness, chosen one. This is consequence. When a person lives out of alignment for too long, reality eventually cracks under their feet. Not every wound bleeds on the outside. Some wounds bleed through behavior, relationships, reputation, and inner stability. They are experiencing the symptoms of everything they tried to bury. And now they are learning the lesson they never wanted to face. You cannot outrun yourself. You may wonder, chosen one, why can't anything help them? Why does everything they try fall apart? Because they're not dealing with an injury. They're dealing with a sentence, a psychological, emotional, and spiritual invoice for years of dishonesty. Every lie they told is now a weight they can't lift. Every manipulated situation now loops back to confront them. Every secret they hid is now sitting on their chest like a stone they can't move. Life is showing them the loophole they never accounted for. The one thing you cannot escape is your own reflection. Imagine someone trying to fix a shattered mirror by polishing it. They wipe harder, faster, desperately trying to make the cracks disappear. But the problem was never dust. It was the impact, the break, the moment the truth collided with the lie. That's exactly what your enemies are doing now. They keep reaching for surface solutions, pills to quiet guilt, therapy to mask shame, distractions to silence truth. But none of it sticks. None of it helps, because their sickness isn't physical. It's who they chose to become. There is a cure, chosen one, but it is the one medicine their pride refuses to swallow. It requires humility, accountability, ownership. It requires them to drop the act, admit the harm, confront the truth, and accept they were the villain in their own story, not the victim they pretended to be. But pride is poison, and they've swallowed so much of it that they'd rather suffer than change. They'd rather crumble than confess. They'd rather drown than evolve. So they sit in their discomfort, not because healing is impossible, but because honesty is. And honesty is the only door out of the suffering they're trapped in. No doctor can diagnose the consequences of their character. No medication can numb the sting of truth. No amount of money can rewrite a story that was always destined to circle back. They're not dying from sickness. They're drowning in the inevitable. Chosen one, understand this clearly. Their collapse is not random. It is the echo of every choice they made when they thought you'd never find out. And now the truth they buried has climbed out on its own. Before we close this chapter, chosen one, take a breath and let everything you've heard settle into your spirit. What you're witnessing in others isn't coincidence, it's clarity. And your rise is only beginning. If this message spoke to you, if you felt the truth vibrating through every word, show your alignment by liking this video, subscribing to the channel, and dropping 77 in the comments to seal your energy. Share this with another chosen one who needs to hear it. Your support keeps these powerful messages alive, and together we rise higher.